as usual, I'm just going to wait for people to come in. I probably should have turned on my iPad. I can do that while we're waiting here. Finally did get this thing replaced. It's not paid for yet, but I did get it replaced. I know I've been talking about that a lot, especially on my Whatnot Lives. Let's get some people in here and get this thing going. This won't be very long today, but I've got a huge update to talk about. Let me just go to... Oh, there's my mod now, sending me a message. I'm telling her we are on the air. Feel free to put your name and your location in the chat. And as I always state, if you're watching this on the replay, feel free to fast forward the first couple of minutes just so we get some people to come in here. Oh, hey, Kelly. How are you? Yeah, I got your message. I just sent you a message back. No problem. I'm just going to give it a couple minutes here to try to get some people in the chat. There's a major update happening as we speak on the Nancy Guthrie case. Yeah, you don't need to mod. You can just watch or listen. Yeah, I looked like crap today. I had about 4 hours sleep last night because somebody had to come over to my house this morning. My driver, actually, for my upcoming surgery, had to come over, and we had to take care of some important business. I was clock watching last night, like, hey, oh my God, somebody's coming over early, and you know, the week of my surgery is not the time to not get enough sleep. But we got it handled and put gas in the car for the surgery. Went over, took care of some errands at the pharmacy. Here we go. We got 3 people. Well, let's just get this thing going. 7 people. Hey, put your name in the chat. Let me see where you're coming in from. I'm April Davis, PI. I'm here in Los Angeles, California. And I have to talk about the Nancy Guthrie case. There's been a major update that came in late last night. Oh, hello, Mr. Valentin. Hello from my living room back to you. I don't know if you guys follow my YouTube channel, if you've seen my short. I did a short video about midnight last night, and I got a photograph, and it says suspects ? Now that's very important. There are some unofficial, and I do say unofficial suspects in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. We are not here to call anybody guilty. Everybody is innocent in this country until proven guilty by a court of law. However, oh, you have a cousin in Baltimore. I used to live near Baltimore. Innocent until proven guilty. I just want to make this very, very clear. But a lot has happened since yesterday. The FBI CSI unit showed up at the house of Annie Guthrie. Annie Guthrie is Savannah Guthrie's sister. It's the other daughter, the older daughter, the eldest daughter of Nancy Guthrie. The FBI showed up with a warrant, a search warrant for the house, and allegedly, I do say allegedly because the police won't confirm nor deny. Hello, we'll say Guinea Verbeck. The police, or actually the FBI, allegedly towed the sister's car. Now, the sister has been identified as Annie Guthrie. Her boyfriend slash common law husband slash baby daddy is or has been identified as Tommaso Cioni. He's Italian. I think he has grown up pretty much in the Tucson area, but he is Italian, I believe, from Italy. And he is a 6th grade school teacher in the Tucson area. He and his baby mama, hi Alejandro, they bought a $665,000 house 10 minutes from Nancy Guthrie last March. Now, she does not have an occupation that has been listed. People are claiming that she's a poet. And people have been quick to point out that being a poet is a hobby and not a living. You know, unless she writes books or something or writes songs for a living, being a poet, you know, I don't know how you make a living off of that. Hi, VP1. This information was put out on News Nation from reporter Ashley Banfield. Is it Banfield or Bansfield? What is her last name? Ashley's last name. See, I have had 4 hours sleep last night. On News Nation, she put out that someone in their organization was tipped off by the police yesterday that this Tommaso Cioni is a suspect. I'm not calling him a suspect. That's why I put suspects, question mark in my postings. You know, if you're not a suspect in a crime, the police do not come out to your house or the FBI with a search warrant and tow your car away. Now, the Pima County Sheriff's Department in Tucson, Arizona, they're not confirming or denying this, but there's photos. There's photos of the FBI and their vehicles at the house that allegedly belongs to Annie Guthrie and Tommaso Cioni. The $665,000 home that they're trying to pay for on a school teacher's salary. Now, they must have had enough money to get the loan, or they wouldn't have been able to buy the house. I doubt Savannah Guthrie just handed over $665,000 and said, here's some money, go buy yourself a house. It doesn't work that way. When, you know, one sibling or two siblings are successful and one is not, you don't just, the people that work their butts off their entire lives, they just don't hand over money to their deadbeat siblings. We are talking about the Nancy Guthrie case. This is my 3rd live video on the subject. You may want to go to my channel and click the live tab. This is in regards to a short that I put out last night. The FBI has served a search warrant on the house of Annie Guthrie yesterday afternoon and allegedly towed away Annie's car. Now, as you know, Annie Guthrie and possibly the boyfriend, husband, baby daddy were the last 2 people to see Nancy Guthrie before her disappearance. Her pacemaker was known to have stopped syncing to her devices, including her Apple Watch, at around 2 a.m. Yeah, it's Nancy Guthrie, Felix. This is the mother of the Today Show host, Savannah Guthrie. She was abducted or kidnapped from her home either late Saturday night or early Sunday morning. It's looking like it was closer to Sunday morning. Now, you may not have seen my first 2 lives that I did yesterday and the day before. I suggest you go back and watch them. I know my mod who is here, Kelly, you have seen those lives. And I'm very careful as a detective, because I am a private detective, what I say. But if you read between the lines, just read between the lines. I'm not saying that these people are guilty at all. Hi, Hearts of Gold. Here's an update on the Nancy Guthrie case. I don't know if you have seen my short, but just to recap, the son-in-law or son-in-law in common of Nancy Guthrie is an unofficial suspect. The police will not confirm or deny that he or Annie Guthrie, her daughter, Savannah's sister, could be a suspect. However, the FBI did go serve a search warrant at her home yesterday, her new $665,000 home, and they're trying to pay the mortgage off of a sixth grade school teacher's salary from her Italian boyfriend, Tommaso Cioni. Just saying, the FBI did go serve a search warrant, and supposedly, I wasn't there when it happened. I live in Los Angeles. They supposedly towed Annie Guthrie's car and took it into evidence. Okay, I'll talk to you later, Kelly. You can always watch it on the replay. Thank you for coming. So this has not been confirmed by the police. They're, as of yesterday, they had like a different attitude, especially the sheriff, Chris Nanos, or is it Nanos? Chris Nanos. He just seemed to have a different attitude. There was just some sort of sense of doom and gloom that I could feel, the vibes. And if you watch the first live that I did on this and you watch the second live and you listen to everything that I say as a detective, and I've done hundreds of homicide cases. And even though there's no body yet, this is being considered a homicide case. There is a homicide unit actively investigating. And I mentioned that you have to look at family. You have to look at the last people that saw her. You have to look at the neighbors. You have to look at people that worked at her home. Anybody from her housekeeper to the person who was her groundskeeper to her pool man. You look at everybody. You look at people in the church. You look at threats that may have been made against Savannah Guthrie. This does not appear to be a random crime. And I did mention this in the first video. If you guys want to go back to that after this broadcast is done, I did mention that the church called the family at 11 a.m. Sunday morning to report her missing. Now, presumably, when they say they called the family, they called her daughter Annie. And that daughter lives 10 minutes away. I don't know if she was home at the time that she got the call, but she's 10 minutes away. They get to the house. They find that the back door, not the front door as previously reported, but the back door is open. Lights are on inside the house. There is blood inside the house. There is a blood trail outside the front door. The Nest doorbell camera is gone, and that's a whole other story, I can tell you. Nest has not got the video footage to the family yet, and it's been more than 72 hours. As of yesterday, they had not been able to get the footage from Nest, which is absolutely ridiculous. There were also a couple of exterior cameras in the front of the home facing the front of the property, and those cameras were busted out. And apparently, at some time before the pacemaker stopped syncing with her devices, at around approximately 1 a.m., those cameras dropped offline. Wait, the back door is open, but the blood trail leads out of the front door. Yes, the blood trail does lead out of the front door. And I think that's why they got Border Patrol's, the sniffer dogs involved, but they didn't hit on anything past that house. And that tells me that she was taken away in a vehicle. They did not say where the forced entry was, but the back door was open. Now, I'm not sure how a neighbor was able to report that he saw the door wide open. Maybe there's a property behind hers, but her property is very big. And her house sits far back. And I did notice from the drone footage in the neighborhood that there are like none or very few exterior lights like on the street, like street lamps. And apparently the reason that neighborhood is laid out that way is because of the wildlife in the area. to have street lamps in that area that's up in the foothills. It would be detrimental to the wildlife in the area. Therefore, it's very, very dark in that neighborhood after the sun goes down. Now, just think about this. If somebody called you and said that your friends or your loved ones, your family was missing, and you lived 10 minutes away, and you went over to the house and you notice that there's forced entry, that the back door is open, the front, it's not really a patio, but right out the front door is covered in blood. There's a trail that leads out towards the driveway, apparently. There's like a little walkway past that front door, and the blood leads that way to the front of the house. Why would you wait until 11:59, almost an hour later, to call 911 and say, hey, I want to report a missing person? And then the cops come out and they immediately see evidence that this place is a crime scene. This is not a case of somebody who just, an elderly person who suffered dementia or Alzheimer's who walked out the door. No, this lady didn't have dementia. She didn't have Alzheimer's. They had just seen her a few hours before. She was fine. Now, her mobility is a problem. She has a pacemaker. She takes blood pressure medication, heart medication. She has a cardiac issue. Heck, I have a cardiac issue, and I'm young enough to be her daughter. You know, millions of people have cardiac issues, but this is an 84-year-old woman who they said wouldn't have been able to walk 50 yards, and she uses canes and walkers. Okay, she is able to drive. She does own a car. The car is there. The purse is there. Does somebody leave with, does an 84-year-old woman leave her house without her purse, without her cell phone, without her ID? No. Her Apple Watch that she wore daily is still sitting in the charger. She's gone. She's nowhere to be found. The family immediately responds to the house, reportedly. You know, this is all from the media, and the media is not always 100% accurate. Oftentimes they're inaccurate reports. But they rush to the house, and the cops are not called until almost an hour later. Yeah, Felix, it is weird. Hi, Towhead. Towhead, alum, thank you for coming. If you guys aren't subscribed, make sure you subscribe to my channel. And this is the third live that I have on this subject. There was a short that I put out, but it didn't do so well because it came out around midnight Pacific time. So most people were already in bed. Just watch my first video, watch my second video, where I say, you look at the people that last saw her, you look at the family, you look at the neighbors, you look at the caregivers or the housekeeper. She didn't have a caregiver. She had a housekeeper and someone that handled her property, landscaping or something. You look at that person. You look at people in the church. But you definitely have to rule the family out immediately, and you have to rule the people out who were the last people to see her. And the last people to see her was either her daughter or her daughter and Tommaso Cioni. Now, if you're not a suspect, the FBI does not show up at your house when your house is not the scene of the crime. They don't just randomly show up at relatives' houses with search warrants and tow away the cars. Okay? Now, the sheriff's department, they're quite upset that it got out on News Nation with Ashley Banfield. That's where this information came from. Oh, thank you, Hearts of Gold. Yeah, and I'm very careful how I word this. If you look at my short and you look at my thumbnail, you look at the thumbnail for this live video, I say suspect or suspects with a question. If Tommaso Cioni was involved in this, I have to put my money on that Annie was also involved. If he's found to have been involved, then I got to put my money on her too. Just because your siblings are successful. The sister, Savannah, she's a lawyer. She was on Court TV. She is the host of the Today Show. She's a broadcaster. She's an investigative journalist. Her brother is retired military, an F-16 pilot. This woman apparently is a stay-at-home mom and a poet. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home mom, but her baby daddy, boyfriend, husband, common law husband, whatever you want to call him, he's trying to pay a $665,000 house mortgage on a school teacher's salary. He is a sixth grade school teacher. Now, maybe they're wealthy. Maybe they've been dipping in to mom's money, you know. I know somebody in my own family where that happened too, where the mother's money was constantly being tapped. And when she passed, then the people that were tapping her money then resorted to what I consider criminal activity and fraudulently obtained money from other family members. It happens. I know it. It's happened in my own family. I am not saying that this is what's happened in this family. This could be somebody that's targeting Savannah Guthrie. This could be somebody that's targeting this woman because they know that her daughter is Savannah Guthrie, and Savannah Guthrie has millions of dollars and could potentially pay the ransoms. And there are multiple ransoms now, not just the one that went to TMZ that apparently is very detailed about not only what this woman may or may not have been wearing, but about items that may have been broken inside the home during this crime. Okay? And the ransom demand is in the millions. They have not stated the exact amount, but it's in the millions. And they're asking for a Bitcoin transfer. Now, there's also one or two more ransoms that have shown up, ransom notes to local news agencies located in Tucson, Arizona. Are those the same ransom? Is that the same ransom note that was sent to TMZ? Is it completely different? Are there just like copycat criminals out there now that are like, oh, these people have money and this lady's missing, we better send some ransoms? You know, usually ransom letters are sent immediately. JonBenet Ramsey, as soon as they woke up and discovered their daughter was gone, there was a ransom in their home already. And that note is legit. Okay, I know a lot about that case, and I'm not going to go into it here. Felix, interesting stuff. I got a dip for now. I'll watch the other live regarding that topic. Bye. See ya. Thank you, Felix. Make sure you're subscribed. I do have the live from 2 days ago and the live from yesterday. But I'm telling you, since I did the live on yesterday, the FBI showed up at Annie Guthrie's house, which is supposedly co-owned by her baby daddy, this Tommaso Cioni, this Italian guy, who apparently has lived in Tucson for a very long time, but apparently he was born in Italy. Just take a look at him. Take a look at her. I'm not saying that they have anything to do with this. They could be completely innocent, and they're just frantic over the loss of their mother. But it's just not typical for law enforcement to go to a family member's house where it's not the crime scene. If her house was the crime scene, then I could understand. Of course, they're going to come in and they're going to, you know, do what they need to do. But they went to her daughter's house and served a search warrant, searched the house, and allegedly towed the daughter's car away, which was accessible by her husband, baby daddy, boyfriend. Some agencies are reporting him as her husband. Others are saying, no, he's just her boyfriend. He's a sixth grade teacher. He's also a musician. He may have been in a band at one time. She is described as a poet. That tells me unless she's writing songs for a living, she probably doesn't make a living. I also mentioned that I've done many hundreds, it could be even more than that, life insurance claims investigations. I mentioned yesterday in my live, check that life insurance. Check to see how much she had. Check to see if there have been any new policies or canceled policies. See if any errors have been added or deleted. Has there recently been a change to a will or a living trust or an estate? That's very, very important to check the financials of people that she knew, especially people that were the last to have seen her. I'm not saying that these people are guilty. I put my arms around them with love. If they had nothing to do with this just absolutely sucks for everybody involved. But look what happened to the Reiners. Nobody could believe that, could they? That would happen. but it happened. Look what happened to Mr. and Mrs. Menendez, Jose and Kitty Menendez. Now, there's a lot more to that as well, but they were murdered by their children. We're not going to go any further than that. Look what happened to JonBenet Ramsey. There was a ransom that was found immediately. Ransoms didn't show up 4 days after she was found dead. The ransom was already there before the parents even woke up. Okay? These ransom notes didn't start coming in to the media until yesterday. These ransoms came in yesterday. This woman may have disappeared as her pacemaker device stopped syncing with the Apple Watch and other devices at around 2 a.m. Sunday morning. She was last seen sometime between 9:30 and 9:45 Saturday night. And there's two stories. The first story was she was with family. The second story is she was at a church function and she was driven by a friend. That was then later revised that she had dinner with her daughter and her son-in-law, and they played mahjong, and that they drove her home. Now, did the daughter drive her home? Did Tommaso Cioni drive her home? Did they both drive her home? Apparently, they did not walk her into the house, whoever drove her home. They were notified at 11 a.m. the next morning when she didn't show up for church. Apparently, they live only 10 minutes away, but, hey, they could have been away from home at the time. But they lived 10 minutes away, apparently got to the house right away, and discovered that that back door was left open. There had been forced entry. They're not saying where, but there's forced entry into the home. The back door is open. Multiple lights were left on. There's blood at the front door leading out the front sidewalk or walkway. I don't think they have a sidewalk. This is Tucson. It's all desert, and there's probably like some kind of stones or pavers leading from, there's like Mexican tile that's outside the front door. It's covered in blood droplets. And those droplets are believed to belong to, my ring light is reflecting off my eyeglasses. Those blood droplets, I believe, belong to the victim. Well, the missing. We're not going to call her deceased yet. But if, it's not looking like this was a random thing. I never thought that this was a random thing. And these things usually happen in all cases, not just this type of case. In all cases, usually when a person is abducted, kidnapped, or murdered, it's somebody that they knew. The majority of the time. It's very, very rare that somebody just goes and takes an 84-year-old woman. If it was a robbery or a robbery gone wrong, the least they could have done is taken her purse or her car keys. The car's there, the car keys are there, the house keys are there, the purse is there, the wallet is there, the ID is there, the cell phone is there, the Apple Watch is there. Everything that she owned is supposedly still in her home. And prior to the cardiac device, the pacemaker, unsyncing from her devices at 2 a.m., around 1, her cameras went down. Her Nest camera, her doorbell camera, it's like a Ring, but it's made by Nest. That camera is gone. The police is working with the Nest company to get the footage. If you don't pay for the subscription, it's not going to save any video in your cell phone app or your computer. You've got to pay a monthly subscription. I understand this because I have multiple cameras at my place. If you don't pay for the subscription, it's not going to save the video. So they really don't do you any good if you don't pay for the yearly subscription. I don't know if she had a yearly subscription, but the Nest was removed, from the front door. Also, 2 front-facing cameras on the exterior of the house, in the front of the house, were smashed, completely destroyed. Now, it doesn't mean that they can't get video footage out of those cameras. But some of these cameras are on a loop where they just continually record over. And sometimes it's days, weeks, sometimes it's only a few hours. And then they just keep recording over the old footage. And that's just dumb. Why invest in cameras if they're going to loop and record over evidence that you may need at a later time? You know, most people are not there right when a crime happens. And if you can't get that video out, that's not going to help. Now, I don't know how much exterior lighting she had in her home. Apparently, the street has none. That whole neighborhood, Catalina Foothills, they don't have any lighting. And it has something to do with the wildlife and the rules of, they've got to protect the wildlife because there's too much wildlife moving through that neighborhood at night because that neighborhood's in the middle of the desert on top of the mountain. It's in the foothills of Tucson, overlooking Tucson. One of the streets that's nearby is called Skyline Drive. Apparently, you have a view of, like Tucson. It's probably a spectacular view. And I can just imagine the stars at night because, we don't have that here in LA. You can't see anything. Unless there's a major earthquake at 4 a.m. and the whole city goes dark, you don't see the stars, Well, you see the stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, but not the ones that are in the sky. So I can imagine where she lives is absolutely gorgeous. But it's dark at night. And these houses, they're not like LA where they sit on the curb where if somebody has a car accident, they're going to drive into your living room. These houses are on big lots. They're set back from the street. The driveways go deep. The backyards go deep. I think the press wrongly assumed that it was the front door that had been left open because a neighbor told the cops that, oh yeah, the door was open. But, how would a neighbor know that it was the back door that was left open, not the front? But the front door is where the blood droplets were, including inside the house. That has been confirmed now, that there was blood inside the house, and there's video of it all over the internet of the blood outside. It's still there. That nobody's cleaned it up. And Amazon has come since and put a package to the right of it because they don't want to set the packages down on the fresh blood that's still there. Now, Savannah Guthrie, her family, they flew in early Monday morning, so they must have caught like a red eye or something in the middle of the night as soon as they heard about this, because she got in early Monday morning. I don't know what time, but she is not staying at the mother's house. In fact, apparently nobody is at the mother's house, but that house is no longer considered a secured crime scene. It is the crime scene of where this crime occurred, but it's no longer taped off by the police. And so the reporters, they're walking right up to the front door and they're taking video of the blood. Now, the police is not saying where the forced entry was, but you've got a case of an 84-year-old woman who supposedly left in the middle of the night without her purse, without her cell phone, without her ID, without her car keys, without her car. She just vanished. And her blood has been found in the house and at the front door, and the back door was wide open. Her Nest camera is gone. Her security cameras on the exterior of the home, 2 of them are smashed. There's nothing left. They've been smashed. Okay. Those went down around 1 o'clock. Apparently, her pacemaker didn't start, it didn't unsync from her devices until 2. So something may have already been going on in that house at least an hour before they actually took her out of that house. Was she dead? Was she alive? She was bleeding. And, on a blood thinner, you can bleed quite easily. That's another problem. If she was bleeding and she's on a blood thinner. And speaking of her blood thinners and her blood pressure med, her heart medication, she hasn't had her meds since Saturday. It's Wednesday. I think the chances are getting slim to none that they're going to find this woman alive. Robbers, kidnappers, abductors, they don't say, oh, hold on, let me grab your meds before we take you. And her meds were found in the house. So she left with nothing. Hello, Young Ho Gift. Young Ho Gift. I don't know if I have that right. Hello. Thank you for coming. Please subscribe if you're new here. If you have not seen the other 2 lives on this, I have a live from 2 days ago, a live from yesterday. I have a short that went out around midnight. Hardly anybody's watching it. I will state emphatically that I am not naming anybody a suspect. I am just telling you what is being reported in the media Who reported it? Ashley Banfield, News Nation, that the police tipped somebody off, that Tommaso Cioni, the son-in-law, is the prime suspect. The police are denying that this morning, but of course, if they do have a suspect, they're not going to go on national TV and go, "Oh yeah, we have a suspect." They could say we have a person of interest, but they haven't said that either. But the FBI just doesn't come to your house with a search warrant and go through all your stuff and tow your car away if you or someone in your home is not a suspect. Okay? I've been a detective as of this month, the end of the month, it'll be 42 years. I'm telling you, they don't come to your house if it's not a crime scene and go into your personal belongings and look at your computers and look at your stuff in your house and tow your car to an evidence garage. They don't do that just for giggles. I was going to say something else, but I can't say the word on YouTube. Okay? You know what I'm talking about. They don't do it. Okay? There's a reason that they've towed that car. And they said, well, that was the last car that she rode in. That's the most lamest excuse I've ever heard in the world. Oh, she rode in that car Saturday night, so therefore now that's part of a crime scene. Absolutely no way. If that car is part of a crime scene, it's because somebody's seen something. Somebody, either a neighbor or there's video footage, maybe at a traffic light, maybe they've run some license plates, maybe they've run some LPRs, because there's DMV searches, which, by the way, I have access to because of what I do, and then there's LPR searches. And, they wouldn't have just gone over to the sister's house or her daughter's house and started taking stuff. I'm going to say stuff, if they didn't have reasonable cause to do so. You can't get a judge to sign a search warrant without reasonable cause. And I don't care if you're the FBI. You can't just show up and go, "Hey, here's my badge. I'm the FBI, and let me in your house, and I'm gonna hook up your car." It's not that easy. Everything has to be done by the book. Now, it doesn't mean that these people are involved. They could be completely innocent. But he is an unofficial suspect, Tommaso Cioni. And in my mind, if Tommaso is an unofficial suspect, then I kind of need to take the leap through the next hoop and go, well, then maybe Annie Guthrie is a suspect too. I mean, it was her car. Her car. That's all I'm saying. If your mom is missing and you run over to her house because someone's worried that she didn't show up at church and you live 10 minutes away, you got the call at 11, you get there at 11:10, 11:15, and there's blood all over the place, and there's, a busted door, an open door, there's a sign of a crime. You don't wait almost an hour to call 911. It just, and I mentioned this. Go back to my first video. Go back to my second video about, you look at the family, you look at the last people that saw her, you look at the neighbors, you look at anybody, someone that tends to her landscaping, her housekeeper, the pool man, the Terminex guy, anybody that knows her, that knows who she is, an 84-year-old woman living in $1 million house alone, who has a very famous daughter, who probably has tens of millions of dollars in the bank. You have to look at everybody first. You have to rule out the closest people to her. And then the net starts to go further out. And that's why the JonBenet Ramsey case was never solved, because when the police immediately focused on the parents, instead of eliminating the parents, they just fixated on that for reasons we won't go into here. This is not about JonBenet Ramsey, but they lost time because they were too focused on the parents first, and the net didn't spread further out. They missed a lot of stuff. And now they know they did, but, that'll probably never be solved. You always go to the family first. You always go to the loved ones first. You always go to the finances, the life insurance, the wills, the family trust, anybody that's been added, deleted, any policies that have been changed. You look at the financial status of the family. You always do that first. Always look at the caregivers, the housekeepers, anybody that works for her. Look at people at church, look at neighbors, look at people in her inner circle. That's where you look first. But when you do that, you don't just show up at the daughter's house with a search warrant that was not served by the cops. It was served by the FBI. The FBI. Yeah, the FBI is involved in this. And I'm not pointing guilt, because I don't know. These people, it could go either way. These people could be 100% innocent and not involved. 100% innocent. But just go back to my videos and make sure that if you see that short, that you do look at that thumbnail and you see what I say, that suspects or suspect with a question mark. We don't know. The police, I can tell you right now, I saw the sheriff this morning talking to the press. He is pissed. I don't know if I can I say pissed on YouTube? He is pissed that got out. Someone in his department leaked something to the press. The press didn't just make this up. Ashley Banfield didn't just pull this out of her rear end and go on the news, late at night and say, oh, by the way, this is what's going on. No. She's got proof that the person is considered a suspect. A suspect is just that, a suspect. Does not mean guilt in any way. But it's better than having no suspects, because as of yesterday morning, they weren't looking at anybody, at least publicly speaking. And today they're going, hey, back up the train. But they're not denying it. They're not confirming it. They're not denying it. Sometimes silence speaks volumes. Draw your own conclusions. Like I said, think about the Reiners. That's the first thing I thought of when this case happened. My spidey senses went to, oh my God, because it's Hannah or Savannah Guthrie's mother. Like, oh geez, she's going to feel so bad if this is connected to, someone who's targeting her. She'll never get over that if, she loses her mother because somebody was targeting her and they went and they got her mom instead. Because it works like that. A lot of times celebrities, their families get targeted. And it just happens. It's the price of fame. That's why when you're famous, you better keep making money, because you're going to have security for you and your family for the rest of your lives. Because there's always going to be people out there that are going to come out of the woodwork that are going to be targeting you. It's just the way it is. If you've got money or you've got fame, her case, she's got both. It makes her and everybody in her family a target. Hopefully it has nothing to do with anybody that's got, a beef with Savannah Guthrie. But you handle this crime like any other case. You look at the people that are the closest to her, that know the house, know how to get in. The forced entry could be a setup just to make it look like the house was broken into. Or it could be somebody that totally doesn't know or didn't have a key. They're not saying where the forced entry was, but the front door is still standing there. It's possible that the perpetrator or perpetrators came in through the back, broke the back door down, and left the front. But her cameras went dead around 1 o'clock, and her cardiac device went dead around 2. So whatever happened, I think they were in the house for a while. They were quite comfortable with being in the house. If the cameras went offline at 1 a.m., but the pacemaker didn't disconnect from the Apple devices until 2 a.m., and the lights were turned on. Lots of lights were found on apparently inside the house. Nobody, whoever was in there wasn't worried about being found. Well, how would they know that she doesn't have some sort of panic button in the house where she can alert security that something's up? You know what I'm saying? Like, how would they know this? That she doesn't have that? How do they know, especially in the dark? That neighborhood is so dark at night. How do they know that she had, besides the Nest doorbell camera, which is right on the front door, uh, how does she, how do they know that the two cameras were posted where they were in the front of the house, and those were smashed? Those went down an hour before the pacemaker unsynced with the devices. Somebody or somebody's, someone or more than one, seems to have spent some time in that house for quite some time. Um, the fact that the cameras were smashed tells me that this was planned. They knew about that house. They knew that there was an elderly person in that house alone. They knew exactly when to come in under the cover of darkness. They didn't rob her. Nothing's missing that the police have admitted to. Apparently, nobody's been taking money out of her bank accounts. If they have, the police aren't saying that. They haven't said that her credit cards were stolen out of her wallet. I mean, they left her wallet. They left her purse. Her wallet, her purse, her car keys, her medication, her cell phone, her Apple Watch. Everything was left behind. And she's taken away in the middle of the night, bleeding. And the only blood they've got thus far is hers. I just wanted to come on and make it very clear that I'm not naming publicly Tommaso Cioni or Annie Guthrie a suspect. I am just saying that they have been identified as unofficial suspects, or he has been identified as an unofficial suspect by the media. And the FBI, they don't just show up at your house with a search warrant when your house is not the scene of the crime and take your car away if you're not a suspect. So they can deny all day long that they don't have a suspect, but yet they've already searched a house that's not the crime scene and they've towed away somebody's car, allegedly. All of this is alleged. Oh, hey, Jason, I was just getting ready to wrap this up. I just had an update on the Nancy Guthrie case. Very interesting. So yeah, Tommaso Cioni, unofficial suspect. Then you jump through the hoop, you take the giant leap and go, okay, if he's an unofficial suspect, then so is Annie Guthrie. But everybody is innocent until proven guilty. Once again, innocent until proven guilty. You probably want to watch this back once it uploads. It might take a while, Jason, to upload, but I'm just talking about the news that came out that broke really late last night about unofficial suspects. Ashley Banfield of News Nation broke the information regarding Tommaso Cioni. Go back to the first and second video that I made live and try to read between the lines as to what I was saying. I have no idea if these people are involved. But I've had a problem from the very beginning that this woman was reported missing at 11 a.m. Sunday morning. The family was made aware of that immediately. The house is a complete crime scene, and nobody calls the cops until 11:59. I just don't think that if you walked into your mother's house or your relative's house or your friend's house, your family member's house, and you saw forced entry, an open door, blood in the house, blood outside the house, camera smashed and removed and missing, and your loved one nowhere to be found, and all their belongings, their keys, their purse, their wallet, their ID, everything is there in the house. Nothing appears to have been taken. I think you would call 911 in under a minute. Maybe two. It was kind of a large house, so they might have needed to check the whole house before they called. But I don't even know if I would have searched. As soon as I noticed that there was blood in the front, I would probably not even have walked in. Now, somebody might just be terrified and run in because they're like, oh my God, my mother. But I would probably just stay outside and call 911 immediately. That just has never felt right to me, that it took so long for someone to actually call the police. Now, there could be an explanation for that. I don't know. But I'm just saying that if you saw my short last night, I'm making it very clear that I'm making it very clear here on YouTube, in my live form videos, and in my short form videos, that I am not naming anybody as a suspect. I am just saying that there are unofficial suspects. The police will not confirm or deny. They're not confirming it. They're not denying it. But the house of Annie Guthrie was served yesterday with a search warrant by the FBI, and her car was towed and taken into FBI custody. And we're going to end it with that. Please, everybody, give me a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Please share this with your friends. And let's still pray for Nancy Guthrie, her family, and her loved ones. Let's hope that she's found. And thank you so much for coming today for the latest update. Love you.